Hi everybody, I'm Bill Sanders and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today what I want to talk about is a watch company that I just recently discovered. And the name of it is Rolf Lang Dresden. And when we look at some of the things he's done here, they're really incredible. This one is called the Golden Age Marintine Chronometer, and it's probably close to $1 million. I think that they made one for each continent. But what it does, it shows this guy's got some really very strong skills. Now, he's an interesting guy because Rolf Lang was born in Germany in 1948. Now, this was before the reunification in 1990. And so this was under the communists, under the Soviets. And so this was developing watches during that period was pretty iffy. Now, his father, Heinz Lang, was a well-known watchmaker, and he went to become an apprentice of his father when he was 18. But the communists didn't like that. They didn't like the idea of inheritance. They felt, there's no reason if someone is born with wealth that they should get it when their parent passes away. But that somehow they decided, well, that also ought to apply to certain kinds of talents and apprenticeships. So, to make a long story short, he went off and did something else for a while. And then by 1979, I think that they were beginning to realize you needed people with certain kinds of talent to do certain kinds of things. And he had been doing things that were somehow related to watchmaking and the kind of skills that you need. And so in 1979, he became the chief renovator of the psychic mathematical community in Dresden. It's sort of like a big museum that they had. And so he did a lot of restoration. And now this is important because I remember some of the really top watchmakers got their start in restoration. Carrie Wooten-Lonnen did, F.P. Jorn did, Michel Parmigiani did. And if we look at these, really the top talent, we find out that they were in restoration. Now, after the reunification, he went to work for A. Lange in Sunden in Glashütte, Germany. And he was with them for about 9 years, and then he became a prototype designer for H. Moser, which was across the border in Switzerland. So, I mean, he's been doing a lot of stuff. Now, one thing, just as an aside, 1971, he had his second child. He and his wife had a child they named Marco. And Marco went on and he became a watchmaker like his father, like his grandfather, and eventually started the Lang and Hein watch company in Dresden, in Germany. So here you have the son starting a watch company before the father had. Now, it wasn't until 2014, that after working with H. Moser, A. Lange, Tomita, some of these other watch companies, as one of the major designers and developers of watches and watch movements, they decided to start his own. Well, okay, so he's sort of the interesting thing is that he's been at it longer than most of the people who have their own watch companies, but he didn't start his own until just about 4 years ago. And so when we look at these things like this Marintine chronometer, he also had sort of regular ones. They too were quite expensive. This is the old time chronometer. And so who would buy these? People who had lots and lots of money and owned big yachts. And so this was the market for that, and there is a market for it. Here you have this beautiful chronometer that they used to use in the age of sail for navigation, and so he puts these really beautiful things together. And this is a regular one. This isn't the fancy one that comes out of the egg like a Fabergé piece of jewelry. Here's another thing he did. He did a pocket watch. Doesn't do a lot of them. Now this thing is almost it's 295,000 euros, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's really fantastic. But there aren't a lot of people who can afford that. And of course, if you're going to make things that not a lot of people can afford, it becomes you have a very limited audience. And but he wanted to do it, and he wanted to do it in the old way, and everything is handmade that he does. So he did that. Well, eventually he decided, well, he's going to sort of settle down and start making watches for people who had very discerning taste, but they weren't $100,000+ or euros in for the amount that they paid for them. So here is sort of what I'll call the bottom, the sort of the entry level kind of watch. It has it's called a Canaletto with Guilloche, and he uses a Canaletto. I'm not sure where that came from. It's the name of the movement that he has, and it refers to particular watches and it's got the one of the features of this particular one. It has the Guilloche. And it's got the sapphire and a 44 millimeter. That's a pretty good size. That's a very nice size watch. It says a crocodile strap with steel clasp. More than likely, this is my guess. I'm guessing there was some stuff lost in translation, I think. But I really think it's an alligator, because that's the alligator. I think it's called Alligatorus mississippius or something like that, are not a endangered species, and so they get their hides taken. It has the Guilloche in the dial, a second sub-dial, Arabic index, handmade, and then blue finished hands. Everything about this thing is handmade. They run, the entry level run around $14,000. They don't have the best marketing in the world. I tried to find a price list, and they were going to send it to me. Never, I don't know, maybe everyone went away for Christmas break or something. I have no idea. But in looking at the movements, this is a very nice movement. Look at the size of that balance, huge balance wheel. You got the engraved cock and the, I'll talk about the regulator in a second. But yeah, looking at it, it uses what's called a 3/4 plate. Now, what that means is that the main plate over the movement only takes up 3/4 of the watch. Now, this was originally designed, the 3/4 plate was used by A. Lange because it made their production a lot easier. So they could get to they put the watch together, and then they'd leave a part open where you could work with the escapement and all of that, and do the final adjustments and so forth. And so this was carried on from a tradition that actually started in Germany, and it runs at 21,600 vibrations per hour, or 21,600 semi-oscillations per hour. So that's a nice, it's got a nice speed to it. I don't like the faster ones. And this one's got two things I like a lot, and that's a great big balance on it, as well as the slower speeds. All right, now let's take a closer look. Now this is called the Canaletto Caliber. And so far, it's the only caliber I think that he makes, or the Rolf Lang makes. And he's got talks about having a golden bezel on. I think there's a Chanton. I'm not positive. It's got a balance wheel of a marine chronometer. He's got these four balances around it. It has then the 3/4 plate, and it has a stopper. It has a stopper from Glashütte, which is the way in which they use for when you go to set it, they stop everything so you can click it in. Now they have what that's called the final adjustment. That's I sort of made a bigger, blew up uh, the balance cock and all, and there's a swan neck regulator on there, or actually a swan neck uh, device that uh, will will adjust more finely. They have a little regulating screw. That's what a swan neck does. You can just screw it, and so the thing will just a little, and so you can get the time just right. And apparently, this was developed originally by Alfred Hellwig, and so he gives him credit for it. So you get this really very cool movement that in-house. Not only is it in-house, it's handmade. It's amazing kind of stuff that he does. Now, here is a watch called the Canaletto Bicolor, and on it it's a steel watch with a rose gold lunette. And these cost a little more. They're over, I'm not sure how much they are. Like I said, I'm waiting for the price list. And then you have an all gold on the plates and so forth for the movement. And this is, again, it's the same movement that's in the other one, but this one has the gold plates beyond just the balance cock on there. To me, this is a beautiful watch. This is one I'd love to have. But I think it runs right around 20,000 for this particular model. I don't know yet. Okay, here's another example, and it'll give you an idea. You can look at the back of the watch. This is one of the dials it has. Is simply a green dial, and again with the small seconds at 6 o'clock and hours and minutes. And then when you look at the back, you can see it has a nice exhibition window, and you can see all of the aspects of the movement that he has available. Finally, this is sort of an interesting one that he has. It's called the Commemorative Dresden Bombing Edition. It runs about 30,000 euro. And it's very elaborate. There's a lot of engraving on it. It has sort of these hobnails around the bezel, and it's this dark blue. And it's a commemorative one for the bombing of Dresden back in 1945. And this was during World War II. And there had been a lot of criticisms about it, but it was war. It was total war. And it was pretty well flattened, and a lot of people were killed, and a lot of historical buildings were destroyed, but that happened to everybody during World War II. All right. Well, this was very. I mean, that's an amazing looking finishing on that. But again, what you're looking at the same movement. This is the Canaletto movement, and to me, the Canaletto movement that he has is very, very, very nice. So anyway, I thought the amazing part is that like there's in Glashütte, there's a Longa and Sonden. So here you really have a father and son, except they have totally different businesses and the way they do things. And the Marco Lang and Hein, is older than the fathers who started in 2014. I think, the other one, Lang and Hines started in the early 2000s, I believe, but I'd have to check on that. Anyhow, well, so this is something new, and I think a very, very interesting watchmaker. This is a watchmaker I think who's got like serious brigade kind of talents. I mean, this is Abraham Brigade kind of talents. And it's fun to discover people like that, but he's sort of like, he's been under the radar pretty much. And he's, in part that's because sometimes these really good designers, they're not very good at marketing or business or anything like that. So, that's possible. But it's something I think that you might like to find out about. I found the prices for this new at on Chrono 24, and I think there's like two stores in Germany that have them right now. But who knows? Maybe that'll change in the future. Love to hear your comments as always. Always an invitation to subscribe if you like. And until next week, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Side, the art and science of watch collection.